Let's get into Kemba. We didn't talk a lot about it. I thought Kemba looked like he was shot out of a cannon to start this game. Like,
it was like Hornets Kemba.
Much faster than last game. He was
bang, couple threes.
But like bouncy, he looked. That's the first time I remember since pre-bubble of him moving that well. And again, maybe it's just in comparison to how he looked.
Cam.
He seemed to be half speed. He looked really quick to me. And then they iced him. He had 17 points in the first half, 2 points in the second half, barely hit a shot there. I guess tweaking how you're going to play those minutes. I know what Brad was going for there. It's almost hard to rate his second half because I felt like he was so out of the game at that point by the time he finally got in. I mean, to sit that whole stretch in the second, the whole halftime, all of the third quarter.
Yeah.
But just impressions of the first half, Kemba. Am I overreacting? Because I was super impressed. Not apology cam level impressed, but super impressed.
No, I was too. And I think that's what Brad Stevens is hoping is going to be the norm. That jolt of offense that this team needs out of the gate sometimes is going to go a long way. And it's not just necessarily him scoring; it's him finding his guys and finding the bigs. And in the second half, I thought Brad Stevens did a good job of trying to hone that to the fourth quarter, because he knows you put him in anywhere near that third quarter or to play anywhere near the 3 to 4 or 5 minute mark, he's not going to have enough in the fourth. And he was able to manage that well into the fourth quarter. John, you asked the group text, well, why isn't Kemba back out there in the third quarter? I'm like, because if he doesn't put him back in there in the fourth, if he doesn't save him for the fourth quarter, the Celtics aren't going to win this game. I thought he gave him a fighting shot.
But that's fine. But you took him out. You effectively neutralized him for the game. So it made sense in theory. In actuality and in practice, it didn't work. Because
right, I think when I say that's going to be the norm, I think keeping him under 30 minutes is going to be the norm. I don't know if that pattern is going to be the norm, but I just think the difference between now and what we see in the postseason is so far down the road that this is a good opportunity for the Celtics to ease him in carefully, while also, of course, keeping him, in action. And of course, scoring 5 3-pointers is going to keep you in the flow of the offense. So this is big. It's like what Brad Stevens said before the game. The Celtics have to adapt to Kemba. They have to bring Kemba into the fold. Get him up to speed, not the other way around. I agree with that.
It is interesting if you look at the chat here. The rage is a little bit all over the place.
Overreacting.
But the reactions are here. Some people are anti-Kemba because they think he kind of kills the flow of everything. I don't know whether that's the case or not. People are going hard on Brad here for his rotations. Another thing you're hearing is obviously the Thompson and the lack of a true center and also lack of wing depth. It's amazing that like every single thing we say negative about this team always rears its head all at once during a loss. But it is funny because every time when you lose, you see where you've got issues, and all of those are real. Javonte Green played 30 minutes tonight, and he played fairly well, but he's still Javonte Green. These 30 minutes because that's the best thing that you could do here against these guys at the 3.
Jason Tatum takes those minutes, and Javonte Green. We can't. We can't talk about this team like Jason Tatum didn't play. Like he played. So I understand where a lot of these commenters are coming from, and I know Brad Stevens probably had some questionable substitutions that we could talk about all day, probably. Or every game there's something that you can talk about, not just with Brad, but any coach. Maybe somebody's going to ask him about Kemba's in and out of the game and why that happened. People want us to apologize about Teague. Why? I mean, I'm not apologizing about Teague yet.
He is what he is.
He played just as well, if not better, than Pritchard tonight. What's going to happen with that point guard spot with Kemba back to full speed at some point? I don't know. I mean, Pritchard was developing really well.
No, we're not having that conversation yet, Jimmy. Stop it.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, at some point, like, obviously his minutes are going to shoot down, and so will Teague. So, I mean, these are questions that will get answered at some point. But
how I feel.
But listen, I thought Kemba tonight looked great. I'm just looking to see how he moves out there, and didn't see anything. I'm done with Brett. Yeah, I didn't see anything to be upset about. I'll tell you what, a few more games like that, and I will have to get on the apology.
How many times has Brad been? How many times has Brad been fired now in 8 years?
It
It's
looks
the
like
thing is,
yeah.
you're always going to have questionable subs when your bench consists of Grant Williams and Javonte Green. You know, like
when you're starting Grant Williams, like
but
Yeah.
the Celtics have been getting a ton out of their bench. You know, and I'm not. You know me. I'm not an anything apologist, but. Actually, I'd say Brad has maximized this roster that's fairly incomplete and inconsistent because they're getting insane bench production. And in
Their
fact,
bench
that's
is winning them games.
That's what's won them games.
Yeah. And tonight again,
Ojale, I mean,
you look at the rotations tonight. They
Green.
outscored Philly by 9 with Teague on the court, 5 with Semi. You know, and plus minus isn't everything, but when it's split between your starters and your bench, you're seeing that you can kill Philly's second unit. And then when it came down to crunch time and the early portion of this game as well, Philly's starters were just a cut above Boston starters. Now, why is that? Is it Thompson struggles? Is it the fact that you have Grant and just this hole at the 5th spot right now without Tatum? That's probably a big part of it too.
it was Embiid, man.
Yeah, and even when Tatum's been out there, though, you have seen opposing starting lineups give Boston starters troubles all the way back to the 2 big lineup that we used to talk about. So the bench has been great this year. You're right, John. Like, you think of what Tice is giving.
The numbers bear out. The bench is I don't have it in front of me. The bench numbers are the reason are among the best in the league.
But if you were to point out 3 or 4 games, you'd have a different leading score from that bench unit every single time, which is normally a good thing. But it's just that the other guys don't always show up every single, the consistency. And I thought Grant Williams was getting there.
You got to give that to Brad, though.
But then now he has to start, and that sort of mixes things up.
No, they're building good rotations, and Jimmy has talked about this too. Like, we talked for so long about like what would be the best starting lineup possible. Do you put Rob in there? Do you put Pritchard in there? But like they're staggering Rob in there and Pritchard in there. Rob when he's been available. You're seeing Jalen lead some of these units. I thought Kemba in that first half led some bench units well. Like they stagger this in a way that really maximizes those bench guys and what they can give them. And when you have Tice rolling like he did tonight, Smart as well, and he's not really a bench guy, but he's kind of that glue guy between the bench and the starters. They got excellent production, and it's not even like a starter bench split with this team. It's all intertwined throughout in good rotations, and that's what wins you games ultimately. Like, who has the best rotations throughout the flow of the game? And I think the Celtics have built pretty good ones throughout this year. But you're right, Josue. They haven't been consistent. You don't have a go-to starting lineup and bench. And part of that's been COVID. Part of that's been the injuries and other things. And, to get back to Kemba a little bit, I think he's a little ahead of schedule now, too, when you look at what he's doing in game number 2. Like, commenters overreacting to his flow of the game. He's on a minutes limit. Like, obviously the flow is going to be a little off. He's on a minutes limit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this game was like, you want to win a game, but there's a bigger picture here, and they're developing good things for later in the season is my point.
But you don't like the way that, again, I know it comes down to execution in the 4th. I think the referees did get involved a little bit. They messed up the whole flow. I mean, you can't get into a flow when the whistles are blowing that way.
That's
And it came down to, sometimes, we consider and overanalyze things, but it comes down to Joel Embiid was the best player on the court tonight by far. And they didn't have anyone to stop him. And once he starts getting the calls and going on the line and he was hitting his free throws for the most part, that was the difference in this game. So we can sit here blue in the face and break down, each player's performance and substitutions and this, that, and the other thing. But Joel Embiid couldn't be stopped tonight. Sometimes players have those games, and he's had those games more often than not this year. And that's why, I mean, if you're really just locked onto the Celtics and not much else going on in the NBA, I mean, Embiid is putting on a MVP type season. So you got to chalk it up to that, I think, for the most part. And they're going to need to address it, because if you want to get to where you want to go, dude, I'm glad that if you want to get to where you want to go, you're going to have to go through the Sixers.
The drapes.
What I actually thought I thought he was in his bathtub. I thought that was the shower curtain behind him. I was like, are the acoustics better in the
No,
I want to change. I just want to change the scenery tonight.
When we first started, I was like, Bobby,
I'm in the tub.
You in Brockton
we would
right
have
now?
given you a minute.
I want to improve your connection. I thought if I move closer to you, Joe,
You have the router in the tub?
Don't turn the water on.
Bobby pulled up to the Motel 6 for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Bobby's in the
all you need is a random picture in the background, like a house or something random in a hotel.
There's my defender pulling up for me.
Yeah.
truth.
Oh man.
If it's not the UPS uniform, it's the shower curtains.
He's in bed. He's in Bed Bath and Beyond right now.
We did take a trip to the spa today. That was nice.
Bobby Pace Motel. Oh man.
All right.